begin to sink. You're all I need. No man, you're all I need. Oh, you're all I need. The world, the earth. Well, it is correct that man was formed from the soil. It means that we, the Africans, we the people, we are part and parcel of what we own now. The minerals that are in the soil, under the soil, it means they are part and parcel of our being. If I have to go to further in this book, the Bantus, one needs to introspect and one needs to have an introspection. Why did the Afrikaners, not Africans, why did the Afrikaners came to settle in Cape Town in 1652? How did they know that there are people in the then province of Cape? Why did they start demarcating the boundaries? The book, my mind tells me it is going to unravel everything about the boundaries.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Prof. Prof, let me stop you for now because I think your mind has gone inside the book.
Yeah. And I like that.
And there is another question that will be coming for you, but let me hear from Pastor Charlie. What provoked you in your mind when you speak about the origins of the first nations of South Africa being Bantus?
Thanks to the radio for allowing me that has been Dr. Zaki, Prof. Lebutanda, all the other panelists, and all the other participants that we salute you first. If you don't know where you come from, you won't know where you are going.
Yeah.
If you don't know who you really are and the potential to live the best life which God has designed for you. When I went through the rough sketch of the book, I realized it answers so many questions like, who are the Bantus? The book Bantus will help you understand yourself. much better. It answers questions like, where was your ancestral home before 1652?
Yes.
For that matter, prophets already appeared. When Jan van Riebeeck arrived here in South Africa, he did not discover slavery. We were already living here in Africa. But the history book says he discovered it, which is very wrong. The book itself is not sort of, it also addresses how does one define food. And if you go into any African language across Africa, you do get that phrase in any African languages. But the beauty about that, what I've also discovered on my own when reading the book, something that came to my mind is that in our African language, we do not have a stepson or a stepdad. I tried to find out what we call a stepdad, what we call a stepson. In any African language, I could not get an answer.
Wow.
Then I realized it takes a village to raise a child.
Wow.
And that is what we call Ubuntu.
Wow.
The also addresses the questions like, are all African languages related? And many more topics. But most importantly, it will help you fight your land back with much understanding. Not just the rhetoric statements that we hear now, but what our land back. This book will make you fight for your land back with much understanding.
Wow.
But on your own, after reading this book, on your own, you discover where the Garden of Eden was, fertile. When God created the first man in the Garden of Eden, if you compare with the Bible, what did he use? He created man from the dust, from the fertile land. I'm trying to think aloud myself. How does fertile land look like? Does it look like pink or does it look like brown?
Wow.
Questions that I come across when I read the book. Where is Cush? The Bible talks about Cush. We're never told clearly where Cush is. Is Cush in Ethiopia or is Ethiopia Cush? These are some of the things that comes out. You read the book of Solomon 4 verses 6, who says, don't look down upon me, you women of Jerusalem, because I am black. But there they use the word Cush, but in simple pure English, it says, I am black. I can simply conclude that Solomon himself was black. But it was further to say, who is Jesus? Why is Jesus depicted Muslim when he was born in Palestine? Was he pure white? Was he pure Jew? Why is it that the devil himself is depicted black with horns for that matter? The connection between love and negativity is probably most clearly seen in our language. Just consider, for instance, these commonly used expressions: Black Monday, Black Plague, Black Magic, Black Ball, Black Hole, Black Hearted, Black Food, Black Sheep, Black Maid, Black Market, Black Out, Black Friday, and Black Cat.
Well, Pastor Charlie.
When we make money, Pastor Two, fraudulently, it's called white collar crime.
Yeah.
And
well, Pastor Charlie, thank you very much. I think you are also going very much deep into the book. The very interesting part of it, when people in South Africa were talking about the origin of nations, as we Bantus, many people will begin to talk about us in 1652. I love the idea, I love what you say, because even when we are talking about the land, a lot of people are talking about the land that was taken away from 1652. The book will talk more about the land and how it belonged to the land and how the land belonged to us, starting from the foundation, as you are saying, that when God, because there's also another science this side, which says in Genesis 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning God. But then scientifically you get the explosion, and then things began to exist. Those are the things that I believe that will blow our minds as we read the book. But before I come back to you, I would like to give Dr. Nebutanda, Mam Nebutanda, just give me your comment or your question, so that we'll then go on with Dr. Taki. D, do you have anything to say? Prepare yourself. Maybe if you have a question to say or anything to say, you can also say something. Dr. Nebutanda, you are welcome, ma.
Thank you. I'm excited to be part of this, and you are, by the way, you are looking beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
My question is, Dr. Taki, you are a professional, a medical doctor. For some of us, it's very odd for a medical doctor to think of writing a book, a history book. What was in your mind?
Wow.
Because I think the readers will be interested to know. Because I after hearing all these things, I can't wait to want to buy this book.
Wow.
Can you please tell us, a medical doctor, if you were a teacher, I was going to say maybe you were.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Thanks, Doc. That's a nice question. And thank you to all the other contributors so far. I like all the things that you've said, and they are in the book. Indeed, they're answered in the book. The reason why I wrote, quite honestly, is just, if I was just to say one thing, is that God asked me to do so. But for those who need a bigger, another version of that aspect, is that how did he speak to me maybe, is that as a medical doctor, I have worked with people so much. I have seen their physical ailments, their emotional ailments, their spiritual ailments. And I came to realize that we are, especially in South Africa, most of our diseases are related to our social circumstances. And our social circumstances are a result of our political circumstances. And our political circumstances are a result of our colonization. And our colonization decultured us of who we are. It took away our humanness. We forgot who we are. And I began to realize that a lot of things that I was seeing, the answer was simply Ubuntu. If we understood Ubuntu, we would be able to deal and cope with a myriad of problems, politically, socially, economically. And so I began to be interested to know, to wonder why it is that I am an African, raised in an African home, but I have never been taught practically, or not practically, I have never been taught verbally what Ubuntu is. And I realized that my parents didn't teach me because they knew it. And because they knew it, they thought that, and they began to transmit it to me by the way they do things, which is the way they also received it. They believed that that's how I would also receive it. Having not been aware that there had been a break in their cultural environment, whereby training of a child and the raising of a child as a village allowed for transmission of knowledge in that manner. But the colonization broke that, which means we now learn by going to school. So Ubuntu needs to be taught in a school format. And I realized that there was no book that speaks about Ubuntu. And therefore, I began to write.
Well,
That is just half of it, yes.
Thank you, Doc. Dineo, do you have anything to say shortly before I move to Sharon?
I do. Firstly, I just want to commend you for writing this book. I think it's incredible. I think it takes a lot of effort and discipline. And just to build up on what everyone has said, I think especially the youth, actually, I think it's really, really important that we learn our history. And so often, even in high school, even in primary school, we weren't taught our history. Just the erasure of African culture has been so embedded in our society and in our curriculum. And then it also makes me think of, obviously, Steve Biko and the decolonization of one's mind and how that impacts society. So I'm very keen to read this. I'm keen.
Thank you, Dineo.
Thank you, T. Sharon, do you have any comment that will love to relate? Sharon, are you there?
Kolani?
I'm trying to unmute her.
Wait, Sharon, you'll be unmuted.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to thank you for including me in the panel. It's humbling, actually. Just for those of you who don't know me, just to put it in perspective, I joined ECC in 2013, and Bishop DUBE and Dr. TAKI DUBE are my spiritual parents. I have learned a tremendous amount since I have joined the church, and then also through the experience of attending the Bible school, which covered a lot of this material that is appearing in the book. I was also fortunate to be part of some of the personal journey in meeting her father, who got his doctorate in African Studies, his PhD, and attend his graduation as well. Anyway, to get back to the book, I think sometimes I say I've missed my calling. I think I should have been a doctor or a nurse.
Okay.
Similar to what Dr. DUBE is talking about, is that a calling is more of a holistic thing. So whereas we look at Western medicine tends to compartmentalize. So we don't fully understand woundedness, which the book speaks largely about. It's big in terms of its scope and its depth of analysis, both scientifically and spiritually speaking. Dr. DUBE explores topics like woundedness and the manifestations of those wounds in our society and the reasons for the woundedness, together with ways to bring about healing and restoration. To quote her, she says, the nationhood of South Africa can't be built without us having honest conversations about these matters. And it's too true, because I have lived in the same building for the past 39 years in the center of Durban. And I don't need to go to visit people in Africa to get to know their people, although it's my dream to do so. Since just about every nation is represented in this small area, only a few kilometers in circumference, Africa has come to take pain. And it's a potential hotbed for xenophobia. Recent manifestations had me thinking once again about woundedness and that manifesting in some kind of sibling rivalry, and what needs to be done to bring about healing and restoration to unify Africans. The writing of the book and the release of this book could not have come at a better time. Dr. Dube speaks of scrambled eggs, the consequences of the scramble for Africa, the consequences of scrambled eggs, which you can imagine. You can't separate the yolk from the albumin, which begins to put many things we witness happening in our country and the continent into perspective. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much, Sharon. You have said things more fully.
Yes.
You know, in the division or chapters of the book, Dr. TAKI has spoken about a lot of things, but maybe she could highlight to us the chapters and what are they about. Because when she said she was writing a book about the story of the First Nations of South Africa from creation, I never thought there was going to be a chapter about Jesus, but there is. I never thought about the Black Israel, but there is. Well, maybe she can tell us what are other chapters that are highlighted in the book shortly. Maybe what are you talking about in the book?
Thank you. Indeed, the book speaks about, because it is the untold history. In other words, this history is there, but it's conveniently not told in the normal history narrative. It's conveniently left out. And sometimes you have to read in between the lines to be able to get it. That's why it's the untold. So it's a synopsis, it's headlining things from creation. So if you're a scientist from 14 billion years ago to 2020, if you believe in the Christian timeline and you take it as 13,000, you could be taking it as 13,000 or 4,000 years. It's from then until 2020, and I'm taking the highlights of human history where it pertains to African people.
Wow, okay.
I explain why we are called Bantu and who decided to call us Bantu, and that is a whole chapter. So it's very important for you to get the book in terms of that, to understand the entire chapter of Bantu, so that we can get away, we can understand it, take it, get away from it, and take our new and correct labeling, or identity rather, not labeling. And then I talk about truth. How do we know the truth? Because part of the reason why we are where we are is because people don't understand what truth is. If I'm reading this history that I'm reading, how do I know it's the truth? Is there scientific truth or not? And when you read the book, it tells you whether there is scientific truth or not. What is scientific truth? It talks about spiritual truth. It talks about philosophical truth, and I analyze that. And then we look at the whole Bantu thing that we're talking about: Bantu, Bantu, Batwa, Wanu, Atu. Where do all those concepts come from? So chapter by chapter, I look at that. Then I look at I marry the chronology of the Bible with evolution. It's called Biologos' way of looking at creation. I do not believe just in creationism, neither do I believe just in evolution. I believe that the two can be married and that one is reading the other. So I believe that science is reading creation and writing it from the humanistic view of seeing what God has done. So if you read the book, you'll be able to get that very clearly, and I go through it quite easily. And then we look at the history. I look at it, it almost goes like this and goes down, goes up and goes down. There's a prologue in the book.
Okay.
It's my favorite chapter. Prologues are usually 3 pages. Mine is a whole chapter.
Wow.
I love it. It tells the story of my grandparents or my ancestry and how they are seeing white people for the first time. And yeah, you've got to be able to read that.
There is also an element that you must highlight that interests me very much, because I always speak to people about decolonizing the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
The way it has been presented to us, the way we are told about the coming of the missionaries and stuff like that. And we have to believe that civilization started at a certain point. You spoke about the history of religion in Africa. Can you highlight something about that? Because I always ask that before whosoever arrived in our country, did we not have our own religion?
Yes. I definitely go into African traditional religion. I speak about it quite openly, from what it is, how it's practiced, to how it's practiced. I have there is a mentor of mine who has a doctorate in African traditional religion, who is a pastor. I also quoted from Pastor Katide's book quite extensively, and I look at that and I sort of compare with the other religions, and I speak about how the different religions came into being in South Africa. And
well, there is also one interesting thing. I will allow the people, if they want to comment before we go to a conclusion. There is one thing that was touched by Sharon, that your own father recently graduated, in sort of, I would say, African philosophy. What has inspired you from the writings of your dad, who started to write many years ago, but every time the university couldn't allow him to pass his doctorate, because he was speaking some truths that people out there do not want to hear. Have you quoted anything from the thesis of Dr. Chris Nelubalani?
Thank you so much. In fact, when Doc Nebutanda asked me what inspired you, besides, I explain it in the book, that purpose is of God. God has a purpose, and he chooses a person to put it into, and that person transmits it from generation to generation. So the person who is standing here right now is Dr. It's my father. This is my father, and the work that I present is the work of my father.
Yes.
It is the work of my father, it is not my work. That which he started in 1971 is being written out in 2020.
Wow.
And he was given his doctorate in 2018. So I quote him extensively. I quote the Bangona cultural movement extensively. So the book is based on oral history, it's based on scientific history, it's based on philosophical history, it's based on current history that's available out there, and I weave them together and come up with this. When you read it, you find that I tried very much to go age by age. It's not year by year, but at least in every millennium there is something that I mention. In every century there's something that I mention. Every 10 years there's something that I mention, so that the reader is able to understand what is happening in the news in the context of the history. Like Pastor Charlie said, you wouldn't understand yourself if you don't know your history.
And you have said in one of the last chapters, you spoke about why hasn't Africa progressed since colonization. Many people will be saying, no, Africa has progressed, we are moving from this era to this era. But you have said in your research in the book, when you were writing, you said Africa hasn't progressed since colonization. Are things the same? Are they still remain the same?
It's not yet Uhuru. It's not the same, but it's not yet Uhuru. Sharon quoted the book and spoke about the scramble for Africa.
Right.
Truly scrambled us like eggs. And when you've scrambled eggs, you can't unscramble them. And when you can't, neither can that scrambled egg hatch. And so because we are scrambled, that is why we are unable to progress further. We need to first be reconstituted and become a nation. As Africans in our different countries, very few countries are nations. Rwanda and Burundi have become a nation because they went through the pain and the blood of genocide, so they became rebirthed. Sudan, as it separated from North Sudan, is becoming, so South Africa, we don't need to separate anymore, but we need to find our Jericho, we need to find our Jordan, we need to find our Red Sea, which some of them we've gone through, that will make us to emerge as a nation. And I believe that the 2020 COVID disaster is one of those things that is going to help us to emerge as a nation. Indeed, this book, I wrote it myself, but I truly believe that if we read it and we are honest with ourselves, it can become that catalytic place that allows us to be born again as a nation. Because you would look at the Freedom Charter and the things that it mentions, and you ask yourself, have we done them? We've done sprinkle. We've done sprinkle. We wonder, why is Africa so embroiled in corruption? It is entrenched. It came in boats.
Okay. Corruption came in boats. Okay. We are reaping the fruits of something that came with the boats. I think there is more in this book, but I don't want to say much because I've been having sleepless nights. Charlie is still going to sort that one with Mice Barry. When we celebrate about this book, we have to come here and compensate me even for the lobolo that I paid. Maybe let me give you, Pastor Shali, to just to give your comment on what you have heard. I'll go to Prof. I'll go to Dr. Nebutanda. Maybe do you have something to say, and then we'll conclude with other remarks of other people. Having heard the little bit that we have heard now, is there anything that you think you can just put a comment in for somebody out there who says, maybe I would like to read this book one day? Pastor Charlie?
You see, when you go through the book, and what I've heard already, what Prof. John have said, what the other panelists have said, I think the book also inspires hope for the hopeless. It inspires hope for an African. It has been emphasized that Africa is the richest continent on earth, which also happens to be the home of the poorest people on earth. There is hope for an African person. Perhaps, if I were to mention some few people, black people, the richest person in history on earth is Mansa Musa, who happens to be black. The greatest pop singer was Michael Jackson. The greatest footballer was Pelé. The greatest boxer was Muhammad Ali, a black person. The greatest and the richest golfer, Tiger Woods, was black. The greatest and the richest female tennis player, Serena Williams, was black. The greatest hip-hop artist, Tupac. The greatest philosopher, Malcolm X, and maybe Martin Luther King. What about the reggae star, the greatest Bob Marley? And the most educated president is the late Robert Mugabe. There is hope for Africa.
Yes.
There is hope for a black person. There is hope for me and you. Africa has been prophesied that it will become a powerhouse. This has been said in the book of Isaiah when he said, in that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian will come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria. The Egyptians will serve with the Assyrians. In that day, Israel will become one with the three, with Egypt and Assyria. Dr. TAKI, in a book, does a wonderful job to debunk the myths propagated by misinformation about the roots and the values of an African, which has left the African person in doubt about his identity and existence, and has created in him a creature that was never meant to exist. But there is a hope. And I salute you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Charlie. Can I move to you, Prof? If you have any comments? Polani, please, I need Professor.
I'm trying to should I mute on his side or my side it doesn't allow?
Unmute his wife.
Which one? It's the same one.
Okay. Then perhaps we can go.
You can unmute himself. On my side it just can send a request for him to unmute.
Okay.
Oh, he's open now.
Thank you, Prof.
No, thanks very much. I just want to expand on something which is in the book. That if one wants to read the book, will have to understand it and also to write maybe another book. One thing sure, Dr. Taki poses a question to South Africa. I don't know whether you are aware, my fellow panelists and those who are listening. Do you know that in the Southern African region, South Africa, it is the country that does not have an identity. I've been talking about this with Dr. Nembaran. I was hoping that he would be joining us, because there is no country that is called South Africa. It means we are just found on the south
Of Africa.
You go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has got the identity. The concept of Ubuntu, Bantus, I think must also tell even a country like South Africa, which does not have an identity. It is time that after reading the book, many scholars will develop other cases about the renaming of South Africa.
Yeah.
Pastor Charlie spoke about if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you go. And at times I sit down and say, maybe the way things are happening, there is confusion because we don't have an identity. Africa starts from Cape to Cairo, and therefore it means this book will tell us to say governments and you African people, whether you are white, whether you are black, you must stop identifying yourself according to
Color.
boundaries.
Yeah.
The boundaries are making us slaves. So this book, I think when you read it, because usually when you read a book like this one, it's too much
Beautiful.
history bound, and also focus on what will happen tomorrow. So I'm expecting many books that will be written by people who have studied Dr. Taki's book, because then it will unravel a lot of things that were decolonized. We were people before other people came. We are not people because
Other people. Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah.
In the beginning of Africa, we were there. That's why Bishop and Dr. Taki, what made our forefathers knowing the medicine that can be cancer? What made them to know? How do they know that when I go to this mountain, I'm going to diagnose and whatever for the flu and the like? So I think this book is taking us to our own niche to understand where things have gone wrong. It is time that we must have hope and believe that things will be correct here in South Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Namundanda, Mama, any comment?
I'm already excited about this.
So when he comes back to you, it's the gift time.
As far as our origin is concerned, even as black people. So I think some ignorant people like me will be motivated today to say, hey, when the book is out, we need to be buying it. And all the discussions are very interesting. I remember one time when I was in Kenya, when I'm speaking my own language, like few sentences, people will say, you are Bantu. We've got a tribe here of Bantus. I said, how are they like? So this book will help us to understand who we are. I don't have any other thing to say. I'm just excited that God has given Dr. Taki the wisdom to get this is awesome. It's awesome. I think one of your politics there. But I thank God for everything.
Thank you.
She really amazed me. We are very much encouraged to know who we are and make sure that we understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Do you have any comments that you can say?
You want to ask D first?
Okay, yes, let me go to D. Yes, D.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Firstly, I just like the depth of the topics that you're talking about. I'm so excited to read your book. I think it's incredible. I'm in awe. I think it's incredible the way your mind works. I'm grateful to God for placing this on your heart and that you chose to share it with us. So thank you. It's pretty cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I have Sharon?
Yes, thank you. I've got a gift to give Dr. DUBE. For as long as I've known her, this book has been in her loins. I've got a tenant who's 8 months pregnant at the moment who's staying with me, and she just so can't wait for this last month to be over before the baby arrives. So I said to her the other day when I was watching a wildlife program that, do you know that elephants have 22 months gestational period? So whilst we have all been waiting for the birth of this book to come about, as a church, as Bible class students, I'm just so grateful that it is here now. We could say it's long overdue, but God's timing is always perfect. I've brought her something just to thank her for finally putting pen to paper and for having the courage to do this. Some people may not receive the information that is being put out there well, but that's on them. Anyway, just to... unprecedented year, 2020. But I happen to know two people who have put the year to purposeful use. They have obeyed God and they have done preaching, and that's him holding his Bible. He's still preaching at the age of 90. So I just wanted to acknowledge Mum DUBE and thank her.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Sharon. At 90, I shall be like...
Yes.
the master here.
120
years.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sharon. God bless you.
Dr. DUBE, before you give your final comments, I would like to give, unfortunately, I cannot see the hands up here, but I would like to give 2 or 3 people an opportunity to say something. And I know one of them is Nomi Amado. She has written her comment, but I would like her to say what she has said in her comment. Nomi, are you able to say something?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Bishop. Mama, we are just so absolutely blessed. I think you and I have conversed around this matter, and then there's for Christian Africans to take part in terms of who they are and their identity. But more profound, my prayer is that this book becomes part of our children's curriculum. That will enable them to hunger and to thirst to find who they are, and so that we move away from his story and we start unraveling our story, and we start being open around matters of identity, even in the church. So we just want to bless God for you, Ma. We cannot wait as Gauteng Community Church to make tons and tons of this book, because everyone will be gifted this book for their present, from the tomatoes, that's for sure. So we're really excited. Let us know so we can also host you in Johannesburg as well, and have a live launch in Johannesburg. So we are decreeing and declaring that Johannesburg will have a live launch of this.
I don't know if you must remember, when you do the bookings, you know that 2 tickets all the time. I've been suffering too long, so I must get it.
Send to Thomas Radio Bishop. Definitely send you Thomas.
Thank you. Well, let me take another person. Do you have anything to say, or any other person? You can just give me and then give your comment. All right.
Ubongo has written something. I'm not sure if she can comment.
All right. Ubongo, if you are able to comment, let's give you an opportunity. Ubongo, can you be able to read it, Polani?
Oh, yes. She says, thank you so much, Doc, for an amazing work. I can't wait to get a copy. Please advise when the book is available. Regards to anyone.
Bongo is saying she's in a noisy place, she cannot speak, it's fine. TAKI.
Yes.
Just tell us, why would you encourage anyone to have a copy? I don't want to say to buy the copy because copies are going to be bought. But sometimes we buy books and we place them somewhere just for history purposes and we pack them there. But why would a person go all the way and buy and then read this book?
You know what? I would say that if in your heart there is something unsettled about yourself, about your family, about your community, about your relationship with God, about your relationship with your neighbor or your siblings, about your relationship with the environment that you are in, your land. If there's something unsettled in your heart and in your spirit about your origins, there's something unsettled about who God is, who Jesus Christ is, what is Islam, who are Arabs, who are Europeans, who are Africans, who is Bantu, what is evolution, where does Africa come from? Did you fall from the sky? If you're concerned about the fact that you can't see yourself in history until the 1800s, if you're concerned about the fact that you don't know how, say like Sharon, you don't know how you came about to be in South Africa as what we are calling white person, if you're concerned about why it is you're called colored, if you're concerned about your ancestry as an Indian person, if you're concerned at all about identity, about the nature of the community of South Africa, about history, and about, most importantly, what's playing out at the moment: gender-based violence, substance abuse, murder, farm murders in particular, rape, the culture of violence, and why is there so much anxiety? Why is there such high depression levels in our society? If you're concerned about any of those questions, then I would recommend that you buy this book. I think Pastor Charlie put it well again when he said this book he believes should bring hope in people. And if you're looking for hope, this is the book to go to. And if you are wondering how science and faith mingle, then this is the book for you. If you're wondering about North Africa, why does it look Arabic? This is the book for you. If you are wondering about South Africa, this is the book for. If you're wondering about anything to do with Africa and about being a human being on earth at this time, this is the book for you.
Thank you very much, Dr. TAKI. I remember when you asked me, what can I say as the forward, I said to you, the story of mankind is a story that will never end. Every time when you say we've discovered this, then the story begins again. So we are starting, as Professor Nebutanda has said, out of this book, and many more will definitely come.
Yes.
There will be a lot of questions being asked, and you have to answer. I know, because I can see some comments and people where he's talking about a very important aspect in South Africa, where the biblical ethos is removed from our schools, and a person reading this book will be able to balance, and obviously one would pray that this book will land into the hands of the students of South Africa, so that they begin to know their history and to begin to know who they are, their origins, and it synergizes the original of Tina Bandama, so that we will stop explaining ourselves as if being in South Africa we need to be sorry about it, so that we know that, as my father-in-law would say, the first people. Let me be the first people. And I would allow you, Dr. TAKI, your last comment and pray.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Sorry, I was trying to find the charts, because there was a chart I saw there that I wanted to comment on, but it's okay. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I saw all of you. I've scrolled down and I've seen all of you in your pajamas and in your lounge. Thank you so much for making the effort to come out to just listen to what this book is about. Thank you, Pastor Charlie. Thank you, Professor Nebutanda. Thank you, Dr. Nebutanda. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Dee, our accidental panelist. We needed the youth voice, and thank you for volunteering. Thank you, Bishop DUBE, for hosting. I want to thank each one of you for contributing. This has been a labor of love. One of my classmates, Dr. Nita, said, thank you for the labor of love. And it summarized it for me, that this is the labor of love. This is my token of love to humanity. And I think it's not my token of love, it's really God's.
Review the updated items on your screen.
Thank you.
Bixby voice privacy content.
It's the labor of love from God. I want to thank all of you. Sharon, did I thank you? Yes. I want to thank you so much and close by saying that the book is going to be coming out. I have put out the date at the moment of the 14th of February. Because it's traditionally taken to be the day of love, and this is a book of love, so that people can self-love and can love each other and can love everybody, and we can stop pointing fingers at you and I and saying it's your fault, it's my fault.
Bixby voice privacy contents have been
being able to there's a thing that my sister loves saying, there's you say the negative or the unspeakable so that there can be a peaceable time. And therefore, if there is anything in the book that is really unspeakable, it's because it needs to be opened out. Sharon spoke about woundedness. We need to open the wounds and wash them out and clean them. So thank you so much. This is a labor of love. 14 February next year, the book will be on the market. We'll sell it online. Because we want to keep the prices low, I might not be able to put it on Bokum and CNA. I will see as time goes on, but definitely online. You can order online. We'll give you the link at Globuntu. Our publisher is Globuntu, so you'll find it on Globuntu Bookshop online, and you will find it at church. And at the moment, it's looking like it will be around 300 rands, 350 rands, and I don't want to push it more than that. So that's why I want to keep the costs as low as possible. Thank you so much.
Please unmute.
Yes, I was saying, Dr. TAKI, I think on your behalf, I was saying thank you to your husband and thank you to
Didn't I say?
your daughters.
That's what I was forgetting. That's what I was forgetting. Please let me say it. That's what I was forgetting. Thank you to my husband, mwah, 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 mwah. And thank you to Tehila, thank you to Ruth, and thank you to my dad and my mom and my siblings and my mom in Pietermaritzburg, Sobantu. I must say that for myself. Thank you. Continue, Bishop.
Well, thank you very much. Bless you. And let me remind you that you are in the days of COVID-19, but we trust God that in 10 or 11 days that are remaining, we'll be able to cross over to 2021, and the grace of God will carry us through. We appreciate God for being in charge of our lives, because I think it has not been our choice that we are alive today. A lot of men of God and women of God have passed on. You know, I know a lot of people have passed on, even in our government, the mayors and whoever have passed on, but God has sustained us. So I always pray, God bless Africa, guide her children, guide her rulers, and give them peace. Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Thank you, Dr. DUBE. It was very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. Bishop. Next year, I'm hoping so that when you release the actual book, we meet again so that everyone is excited.
Yes.
So I want to ask everyone that we may take this book as our book, not only Dr. DUBE. It talks about us, it's for us instead. So if we can take the responsibility of this book, we can then see it in all the schools. The history is about us, so we need to push the history so that our children and our children's children will learn the correct history compared to what we are reading at the moment or they are reading at the moment, which is something that is totally contrary to what exactly who we are. So thank you very much, Dr. DUBE. Thank you much, Bishop, very much, Bishop, and the panelists, and everyone who made some time to come back and be with us. And have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pilile. Thank you, Bob Max. Thank you, Bishop. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. That was a beautiful synopsis.